Fellas, what is up? We've got another friend of the pod joining us today, Sam Foley. Sam, welcome to the Clubhouse. Great to have you on.
Boys, thank you for having me on. It's an honor. Been a follower since day one, and hopefully I can fill in for Jester in this while he's having the time of his life on his honeymoon. I'll try to keep the college sports takes muted in his absence though, and leave that for him when he's back.
Sam, you probably picked up on it as a regular listener. You got teased early on when we were all together in LA when Jester said, "Our New York friends, you know who you are. You need to come drop in." We were talking to you, so we're glad to make this happen 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah, thank you, fellas. I'm fired up here. We got to do Clubhouse East Coast version when you guys are in the Big Apple at some point. I'm actually right outside of Boston right now at my parents' house, so either or, if you guys can handle Red Sox Nation and the Patriots banners around, but we'd love to do it in the Big Apple when you're around. And yeah, like you mentioned, huge listener here. I love what you guys are doing, and I think this is what it's all about: is getting the fellas on the horn to wrap up a big week in sports for sure.
Dom, your background is fantastic. Once again, where are you? I'm still at my parents' house today. I'm in my little brother's bedroom, so I'm mixing it up on the backgrounds today.
Thank you. Now this is courtesy of Panera Bread, Coronado Island, San Diego. We love it. Got out of the ADU today for a little bit of sunshine, and super excited for this one with Sam. So let's do it.
A little you pick two action, Dom, for you.
Yeah. You know how it is. Yeah, it is. We might play 18 after this. I can neither confirm nor deny. But yeah, this will be a fun one.
Living the dream in San Diego. Well, Sam, we need a little overview on who you are, what you're working on. Tell us about No Huddle. Tell us about your collegiate career. What makes you a friend of the pod? Why are we having you on, of all people?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of kind of webs that connect us across different ways, and even just meeting Dom for the first time on the pod, I feel like we've known each other for a long time, just kind of building in these lanes. I am a former college quarterback. My college career lasted 1 year before I got hurt, but Brent, we got that connection of could spin the rock to a different level of I was D3 versus you D1, but we'll table that there. But I think there's a college athlete connection there. And then I'm the founder of No Huddle. So what No Huddle is, I started about a year and a half ago as kind of one, a side project and a passion project, but two, I really noticed an entry point and a gap in this kind of sports business world of what we're doing here all together. Of Brent, I've read your Skybox article that came out this morning or last night, depending on which time zone you're on. And everyone's covering all these team stake sales, right? Teams and sports as an asset class has completely flipped on its head and grown. And I was like, what's going to lead to the next turn of all these team stake sales lagging higher? Well, it's going to be a lot of these startups that are nowadays underpinning those valuations and growing and growing and growing. And as we have these kinds of leading entrepreneurs and tech investors that we're seeing literally this week, they're kind of thinking forward in that same way. And so what No Huddle does is I write trend pieces similar to what you guys are doing with your work, but I pair and partner with founders to write about what companies they're building and how they're doing that in sports and entertainment, right? So think about, any big topic that we're going to talk about here today. There's dozens of companies and there's dozens of builders out there fighting that journey to get to a point of, a big partnership with a team or a league or youth sports or college sports, right? All those different webs. And about a year and a half into it, I've had 31 features now and I have a really strong pipeline and love doing it. It's amazing, this network that you build. And that's how we all connected, I think. And then we turned it on to, the Clubhouse here live on YouTube.
At this point, I assume you have inbound from a lot of these people. Can you tell me a little bit more? It's a great model. I mean, Packy McCormick does something a little bit similar in the tech world with Not Boring, doing these company deep dives. And in his case, it's a great model. He's got great connectivity. He's an excellent writer, can provide a breakdown, tells the story of the company. And in his case, has been able to get allocations into a lot of these businesses and has raised a fund off of his newsletter. But tell me about, one, how did you get going? Were you just cold emailing founders that you had never met saying, let's put a piece together and it snowballed from there? Or tell me about that part.
Yeah. So I think some of the inspiration for it, I want to give shout outs to like Axios Pro Rata, Fortune Turn Sheet, right? Some of these aggregators that put together like punchy digest news, but also list out a lot of companies and their fundraising or latest M&A. And back in my Barclays days out of college, when I was a tech and media banker there, those are my favorite things to do during the day, right? Read those newsletters, which goes to tell you a lot about what my days were like. And I would write down every single company that was in sports, right? Because I was like, I want to read more about this company. So eventually I had a list of hundreds of companies that had fundraised in some capacity. And where my brain went, and kind of entrepreneurial nature like you guys are, what about where are these companies? This company was founded 4 years ago. This company was founded a decade ago. What was that path all the way to get up there, right? So I had a list to begin with. Some of that was cold inbounds of like, hey, I have this idea. I want to start this off. Some people say, hey, you have a newsletter with how many people subscribe? And I'm like, I'm just starting this thing, right? I'm really trying to build it. Where other people are saying, I want to tell the story. I'm ready to jump in, like want to grow with you, right? Kind of that founder mentality of like, rising tides. But now I'm fortunate enough that it's really all inbound at this point. People see it online, people hear about it word of mouth. A lot of investors read, can you talk about maybe one of our portfolio companies or companies that we've been looking at here? Can, meet with the founder here and try to tell that story. And I think just to round that out, like what I'm really trying to hit is this crossover between sports, business, and entrepreneurship. I think those are like the three biggest things in my life to date at 28 years old that I love. But I think those attach to so many people who listen and just expand, right? We all have played sports. We continue to call ourselves athletes in different ways, right? That mentality, no matter what age you retired. And then business and entrepreneurship, everyone has that in themselves somewhere. And so Huddle really tries to tap into that no matter which way, shape, or form you go into that lane. And just loving doing it and supporting these founders and telling their story to an audience that cares.
I love it. Sam, not to put you on the spot, but since you are in Jester's spot today, I have to ask, you've done quite a bit of these and the way that you bring it together from an editorial standpoint is really fantastic. And so shout out to you on all the amazing work you've done there.
Appreciate that.
One of the things that Jester always gets me with, but I'm really excited what your perspective is, Brent and I, it seems like, and Matt, like we spend so much of our time and energy picking apart the patterns that are just, showing up in culture over and over and over again. From maybe the time that you've started No Huddle to now, what sort of historical patterns are you seeing becoming more repetitive now that AI and the anti-AI trade in this case is at the forefront of most investors' minds?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we could break down a couple ways, but I think thematically speaking, I've only done this for a year and a half, right? But I've been following it for, I feel like, my whole life in different ways, shapes, or form. And like, in a funny way, being from Boston, FSG was one of like the initial groups that kind of thought innovatively of, okay, we have this, very scarce asset. How can we compound that? How can we build a portfolio out? And kind of just thinking with that mindset. But what I will say is in just a year and a half of doing this and meeting founders and like, what's cool about No Huddle is the web connects so many different things, right? It's wellness, right? Which you guys talk about a lot here. It's also sports. It's when you walk into an arena. It's when your kids are playing, right? When none of us has kids yet, but hopefully one day, right? All those different components of sports and staying in shape and such. But one thing I think that's really stood out to me just as I've gotten to meet more and more founders is how much they care about their consumers, what their consumers want, right? It's so easy nowadays to create something and spin it up fast and have like, the AI SEO kind of spin around. But when you have a consumer, and in sports, that's all that matters is a sticky consumer, right? That's what sports is ingrained in. Sports is like a part of you. You're following, you're rabid, you're a fan. What's going to last? And what does the consumer want when they go to the game, when they're scheduling, their kids' games and what the weekend's going to look like and how we're going to travel to go do that. For college sports, right? I'll leave a lot of this to Jester, but there's some chaos there. But what is going to affect the fan and the consumer? What's going to affect the athlete, right? How are we going to, rise them up and make that experience better? And I think founders have really flipped. Instead of thinking like AI this, AI that, we can be enabled by AI, but we really care about the end user, right? And who is getting the most out of this here? And it's been really cool to just kind of see that. And I think entrepreneurs are the most amazing people around, right? They're giving it all and they're pushing for the future, right? That they're innovating.
What have been some of the more interesting success stories or maybe markups that have taken place over there's the year and a half and there's the 5 years? When you talk about sports tech and some of the earlier stage things, which can span obviously human performance to the way that an arena operates, like you mentioned, there's a whole value chain of sports. Within that value chain in the sports economy, where have you seen the most, I guess, progress and success within that time period? What is shown up there? And also something that I sometimes wrestle with when it comes to sports tech is that in some cases there is a ceiling and a capped TAM effectively when it comes to, okay, you have this amazing product. If you sold it to every professional team and every collegiate team in the country or even the world, it's still not that big of a market. The thing that gets me excited when I think about a sports tech or a data-driven company that's beginning planting their flag in sport is when you say, okay, it starts here, and then there are use cases in defense or robotics or all these things where all of a sudden the TAM explodes. So that's a two-part question. Where on the value chain have you seen success? And how do you think about total addressable market when it comes to a sports-focused product?
Yeah, it's a powerful one to think about too, because like I think we're just in the early innings of a lot of this stuff, whether that's sports as an asset class, and then the kind of pull through of sports tech and all these like other sports services, right? But I think about it the same way, Brent, and some of these early winners that I've partnered with and lucky to be, hand in hand, just supporting kind of editorial role from an early days, have been ones who think in a wider TAM, but they start in sports, right? Which is what I've been covering. And I think there's different ways to go about it, right? You could be outside of sports and work your way in is once you built a following and a solid product. One I think I do want to call out is Fast Break AI. So I covered them, over a year ago, and I think you guys have written about them. And John, I think Brent, you spoke with him several times too.
Yeah, I had John.
They originally started, right on and under the number. They originally started as a scheduling service for kind of pro sports. And look what John's done with their Series A funding. They are now grassroots left and right, and they're really trying to change youth sports. But not only the scheduling aspect of it is like, what happens when you walk in and, I played like AAU basketball growing up. There's 12 courts running, there's kids all over the place. Like, what's that experience like? And there's all these other like different layers under that of like the concession stands, the CPG products that can be offered there, and kind of building that from the ground up. And I think John's thinking like, definitely chestnut checkers there of like what was like, there's Zach Brown band at Fenway tonight, so the Red Sox can't play, right? Like the original scheduling conundrum. To, okay, well, there's actually a way larger market. We can still do that. That's our bread and butter service. That's what got us, those great logos on our sales pitch in the youth sports, that kind of aspect. And then another one that I do want to mention too is Article 41. They've operated out in kind of West Coast and your guys' ways, but they're, I would say, a creator-enabled marketing service that goes into colleges and helps teach and empower athletes to build their brands online, right? Because now with NIL, there's so many different ways that kids can make money. And many times it doesn't have to be even a part of that revenue sharing agreement, right? If you're not in a football or basketball sport, and I know you guys have put together some great analysis on this work, there may not be a lot of dollars left over from your school to pay you. So you got to build that brand up. And that brand, quite frankly, may be much bigger than what you could ever be for what's on the front of your chest. And so what Article 41 has done is they go in boots on the ground, kind of a takeover consultancy service to teach these young athletes, right when they get in, this is how you should build your TikTok. This is what works. This is what, your marketing pitch could be, and how you can engage with sponsors and brand partners yourself and kind of a platform for them. And they've already seen, Ogilvy, which is one of the largest kind of like agency entertainment firms, took a minority stake in them. A few months after I was able to partner with the great team there and Ben Gilden and Vicky Seeger. So just like I think that theme is like narrow TAM, but it's so much bigger, right? For them, it's like college sports, but it's actually the creator economy, which is what it's all about right here with us three getting on the phone and what we're building in our own specific lanes too.
Well said. Yeah, that Jon Stewart interview was so interesting because like you just broke down, like their wedge or their differentiation at the beginning was scheduling optimization, which is like a really hard data science question, actually, when you get to a full-blown league or a collegiate conference or whatever. And like you said, it's expanded. And you mentioned their Series A and what they've done with those funds. They raised $40 million in their Series A, which is a huge round for a sports tech business. And I asked him on the podcast, I was like, that's a ton of capital. Like, why did you raise so much? And he straight up answered, he was just like, acquisitions. We're going to buy several companies. We've already got one that's going to be announced shortly. It was like a week after we recorded, it was announced, and they've continued. So that was a good call out there. Fast Break seems to be building and growing aggressively.
100%. And Dom, just to connect that to your question too, like one thing I've noticed that founders have really thought about in the past year and a half of me really partnering directly with them is I've felt a lot more conviction on what they want to do next, right? When you raise money, what do you exactly want to do? Or where do you see yourself in 6, 12 months? And what is it going to take to get there? And having that conviction, and I'm rooting for them, I hope that it's right? But they really do have that. And Brent, like you said with that interview with John, he knew that's why we're doing it. It's not, we're raising money to have the headline to be picked up in Axios Pro Rata, or like the OG of where I would have found out who Fast Break AI was, right? That's how most people may see it for the first time. But they're like, no, we're ready to, we're growing. This is exactly how we're going to do it, right? Whether that's acquiring, whether that's hiring, whether that's, scaling your product, et cetera. But I have noticed that, and that's been great to see, because I think that's always fun when a founder or a leader is like, we're all in, right? We're going for it. This is what we're doing.
That's really interesting. I think what's also interesting there is with AI now, how fast these founders can iterate based upon their ideas and what's going on in market. One of the key reasons, I didn't raise capital back in 2023 when we started and had the opportunity to was because of that. I was like, I have to be able to iterate, upon this. And my dad had started a bunch of internet companies that a couple were bootstrapped, a couple were, VC backed. But he kind of really made this emphasis on the ability to pivot and iterate, and not having your cap table, limit you. But now, because of the speed of AI, it's just incredible how fast they can keep up. So, hopefully those convictions become more actionable, right, in real time, rather than something we have to look out 2 to 3 years or even the next funding round to get around to.
Dom, on the creator economy point that Sam made, that had me thinking about your Instagram, and you're quite the short form creator on that platform, and you had a banger this week that you said it's probably on pace to hit 100,000 views day one. Tell us about that, because that was a pretty sweet breakdown.
I'm laughing, man, because this is the first week I actually I'm just trying to get into like YouTube for the first time, and so my YouTube strategy to this point has been going live on YouTube to all of like 1 or 2 people, and it's just really it's such a sobering process of like going from this medium where there's like hundreds of thousands of people an hour that are watching content over to that. But it was interesting. So there's this a business called Cross Court up in LA. Founder just raised $2 million for it, essentially to build the country club for basketball, which I don't know from looking into the sentiment that fans in the market are having initially. I'm not a hooper. I played pickup in college in the rec. It's how I got like the scar in the middle of my forehead. I took an elbow. took an elbow.
A little Harry Potter action there.
Yes, exactly. Anyways, but the one thing that's really interesting to me, and I'll have more to share about it really soon from an investment standpoint, is I think everyone's been talking about youth sports and youth performance for a really long time. Guys, we should clip this. I think the next 3 to 5 years, the shift is going to be into family performance. I'm telling you, you're going to see billions invested in that direction. And what I mean by that is that you have an elite soccer program, for example, in the Northeast, that maybe can, can be outside 4 to 5 months a year, but has this great, beautiful indoor facility where the kids come and they train and they do their thing. The next part of that is how you attach like the golf sims to it, the health and wellness classes, because I think family performance, but more importantly, the parental hour, as I can best describe it, is going to be unbelievably big. I think the TAM is huge for it. I think parents understand the second screen problem that they have, where they take their kid to soccer and then it's just like this for the next hour and a half and reading emails, and they don't want to be doing that. They don't necessarily want to watch their kid who can only make the starting lineup playing right field for their little league team. They want to do other things during that time period. So anyways, it's a long-winded way of saying I'm glad. It's always cool to see videos like that pop off, because it gives these founders a lot of product market fit in regards to how they're thinking and ideating on things. And Sam, we could probably double tap into that more in time. But yeah, I think the parental hour is going to be huge in the future. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but I think family performance is going to continue to just create a market of its own.
I think that's a great take. I was just in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. You guys probably know this company, but Volo, which is Sam. Maybe you made a face like maybe you
Yes,
know
sir.
it well.
I've played in a few men's leagues in New York for hoop.
Okay, can you give me just give us the elevator pitch on Volo?
Yeah, so I think, like, as I was kind of alluding to with, Huddle, there's always an athlete in you, right? Whether you stop playing when you're little or what you're not. And as we come through this post-COVID boom, but also just like let's get back together, right? Like, people are in front of their screens now all day long for so many jobs, and you wake up, first thing you do is on your phone, right? All these kind of free minutes. Getting back and playing sports and being competitive again is kind of Volo's whole MO, and doing it in these big cities and doing all different kinds of sports, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily basketball, or maybe they have flag football in Arley and Brent, but like it can be that you even have to do pickleball, volleyball, right? Like anyone can kind of hop in and create a team. And I remember playing in our leagues, and you get the blood black phone, right? Like back in the day, you're like, all right, yeah, this is mano y mano, we're playing again. So yeah, I've had a great experience. Zog and Volo, I think, bought Zog, and now they're continuing to grow their scale with Bluestone behind them.
Yeah, so in San Francisco, just walking around in the marina in North Beach, and these guys, people are repping Volo shirts everywhere. So they've got free marketing all over the place, and I knew it was adult rec leagues, basically, right? And that hits on the wellness megatrend, and it certainly hits on the desire for community, get out of the loneliness epidemic, go home from work and actually go and play a team sport, even better than just going and hitting golf balls or doing a solo sport. So that all hits. And then you connect it, Dom, to your really good take there of like, that is all undeniable mega trendy stuff. And there are companies that are really accelerating by serving the adult who wants to remain some form of an athlete, stay active, have a community, have a friend group outside of work, outside of their typical social circle, maybe. And that colliding with all of this youth sports investment and upgrades to facilities and infrastructure and all the things that hopefully have friction drop in those processes. It really is a good take by you that those things would somewhat converge, I think, into that family hour that you're talking about.
I'm starting to see a lot of decks come across my table. It's actually it's gonna screen share one, but I'm like, that's messed up. You got these social kitchens are starting to pop up, particularly around the paddle space, however you want to pronounce it, where they're bringing Michelin star chefs into wellness clubs and different, again, in this case, padel clubs. But I think we're all just like running around the main idea that this is really about a family outing at the end of the day. And, instead of spending, $38 at Chili's to feed 4, how can we spend 200 and get our wellness and recovery and also a really good meal in at the same time?
I think we're already seeing some of these pop up, and I haven't seen one that checks all these boxes on because I'm so bullish on that thesis. But I wrote about it and partnered with, and I got introduced to these guys because they're opening LA location Ballers. They have a spot in Philly and then a spot in Boston, which is kind of a smaller version of what the Philly one is like on steroids, like one of the coolest places I've ever been. And their kind of thing is the country club, like the urban country club, right? It's a social space that people who are maybe in a city or, if you don't golf, right? Golf can be a more independent sport in different ways, depending on how you view it. I think of it as a social one, but depending on how you take it. But Ballers is going for that, right? And maybe that one next connection is just having more opportunity for kids, right? We see Lifetime Fitness has some of those. I'm out in Mass, and there's a huge one in Westwood locally here. They have a kids like play zone, and they have a whole kids fun space. And then the parents, there's co-working, and there's go work out and do all those things. But I completely agree, and I think that we're already starting to see those seeds planted. And now it's just going to be connecting the dots all together, whoever's doing it. And then also from an underwriting perspective, those are some pretty good cash flowing businesses, right? If you plant it in the right location, you get the right clientele. Like, you're not waiting on, you don't need a big partner. You just need people in the door, and you can get things up and running.
Well, how about it also feels like the ultimate prepay, get on the wait list with a deposit as the thing is being built. If you do that the right way with good branding and marketing, and you have a good location that's yours and it's been secured, that's pretty attractive, particularly in these premium areas. And like you were mentioning, the Michelin star thing is that's so funny, and it's so another reminder that, like, due to K-shaped economy stuff, what we think is the ceiling on premium or ultra premium, we have yet to find it. It just keeps going. It's so mind blowing, but it just keeps going. And I mean, maybe there's a point at which it gets to be too much, even for the ultra, but we have yet to find it.
Going to get margin calls on our social equity anytime soon. So it's a good bet. It's a good bet. I was just I was on FaceTime this morning with Brian Mazza from my guy from Lifetime, who's the VP over there, and a lot of fun stuff coming around the corner with what they got going on. But he basically said the same thing, Brent. It's just like they're just trying at this point to essentially test in specific markets, like just like how far can we, push the envelope here. But they are looking at how do we do it through kind of these, again, family outings. I think there becomes a point where it becomes a little too pretentious rather, when you are spending maybe $5,000 to $10,000 a month on your own health and wellness. But if my family and wife can like come do it with me, it's like totally cool, right? So it's kind of funny.
I just had a recent, I guess, topical example like this. I'm here in Santa Barbara, and we'll leave the name out for now, but there's a beach club and a country club, the same owner out here. And the country club, when you talk about these amenities, has, of course, golf, of course, huge pool. I believe it has tennis, but I'm not actually 100% sure. But you get inside the clubhouse and the men's, locker room area, and there is a bar, a movie theater, a bowling alley, batting cages. Like, it's everything. It's unbelievable. The amenities are just like limited by only your imagination. And then this beach club has fewer things, but has, Olympic swimming pool, and it's right on the ocean and good food, and it's great. The beach club, which has no golf course and no tennis and no big spaces like that, has a $450,000 upfront fee just to get going. Then you pay your dues. Then you buy your $28 cocktails. The club up the street has a $300,000 upfront fee. And then you do your dues, and then you buy the food, and then you do all that stuff. And it's just like, oh my gosh, they are testing the upper bound that just keeps on moving. It's so mind blowing.
I don't know though. We have an event coming up with the Hyatt in Miami, and I got the menu 2 days ago, and a double marg for the night is going to be $28. So I don't think the club's charging enough. I think the market's I think the market's priced in margaritas and what fans are willing to pay. So I think we need to push that a little bit.
I might have been low. I mean, you can certainly get $40 drinks there easily, but anyway.
Well, here's the issue, boys, and I'm sure we'll get to this on this episode, but there's more and more millionaires being printed every single day with all these new funding rounds of these AI companies and just connected to AI, right? And what we're saying, SpaceX, Brent, I think you had a great stat about that, of how many new millionaires there were just based off SpaceX IPO alone. And now think about the next 5 to 10.
The stat that I had said was from a podcast with Gary Spitalnik, whose company Real SLX serves a really, really premium set of clients with IRL activations embedded into really excellent sporting events like the Ryder Cup and Augusta and all these things. And yeah, the stat that I brought up with him, it's impossible to validate whether this is 100% true, but it was that 160 people in Austin, Texas were set to make over $100 million on the SpaceX IPO. And that's just
$28 mark doesn't sound so bad then, right?
No, they're not thinking about the $28 mark. Exactly. And so, Anthropic, that'll be a cash flood. OpenAI, that'll be a cash flood. Databricks, Stripe, these companies that have taken so long to go public. So yeah, I might be laughing at the stats that I'm bringing up as ridiculous now if we fast forward just a couple of years, but
have a scale people ready.
Yeah,
you got it.
No, I was just gonna say keep running them out there so Ray Dalio and I can keep shorting it. I love it. The first 4 to 5 months of these things are awesome, especially how, yeah.
I was going to say, there's going to be a scale of these low millionaires, right? Some employees, whenever they joined, up to the investors, right? And then up to the founders, right? And those are all just different levels of money. And we're seeing now people of that later on in that scale, where are they going to put this money into? teams. So that's become the new trophy asset to spend that too. But then you have some of the more regular folks who may have been, BDR number 12, who can then go join your club down the street, Brent, because they have so much money from that early equity that they got.
Seriously. And on the team thing, we can talk about Arctos with the Falcons. We can talk about Mark Stad with the T-Wolves. We can obviously, we went deep on Kushner last week. I just decided to do a breakdown and as my piece that I published late last night, West Coast time. And one of the things that I pointed out, which sounds like kind of a simple point, was just the people who are buying these teams, it's in their DNA and the way that they work in their day job to think in these unfathomably large numbers, because all day long they are managing funds with hundreds of billions of dollars in them of AUM. They are writing checks in the case of like Kushner for hundreds of millions and occasionally billions of dollars, single checks into growth stage businesses that are not exactly the LA Lakers that have been around since the 40s. Or their technology executives like Jeff Bezos, who's now the anchor in this Liverpool situation and runs, is the founder of a multi-trillion-dollar market cap business. Like there was some side by side, which was the day that the Lakers deal was announced at $12.5 billion. It was either the same day or the next day. Lovable, a Swedish vibe coding startup that you guys may have heard of, but the average person certainly has not, raised at $13.1 billion valuation within 24 hours. And it's the lens through which these particularly technology and more venture people think, and to be in the middle of a super cycle, the thought of, wait, I can buy a globally renowned piece of IP that has been around for decades with unbelievably protected downside for only $12 billion. Like they just don't get spooked by that. That last generation of longtime team holders, they were buying these teams for tens of millions of dollars not terribly long ago. And I mean, the Bust family bought the Lakers for $67.5 million in 1979, which I'm sure was an unfathomable number then. Paul Allen bought the Trailblazers for $70 million in 1988. Pat Bolin bought the Broncos for $78 million in 1984. Seahawks, again, Paul Allen, $194 million in 1997. But I put together this table with some of the MOIC and the IRR attached to it, and it's wild. But yeah, it's just like these people have the DNA and the day-to-day level of comfort with really big numbers. And I hate to sound like so simple, but like that actually is a pretty key piece to how these deals are going down and how they're going down so quickly.
I mean, just sheer appetite for risk. They if you're an entrepreneur or an operator or an investor, you're used to that, right? That's your entire day. I'm thinking about like David Tepper. He's gone to, and Steve Cohen, they've gone to bed with billions of dollars at risk. Is the Mets or the Panthers really that scary to them when they buy that? I don't know. Maybe I would love to go into their brains one day. But I have a feeling it's not, right. They know what they're doing, and that they don't even balk at that price. They're gonna the scarce asset, this IP, and they're just gonna build upon it, like both what those guys have done. No matter how well their teams are performing, they're happy with that investment in different ways. And yeah, I mean, I think the coolest part to me, and this is what, to tie it back to No Huddle, is like it's like that athlete mentality. Athletes have that same thing, right? They don't see, there's no cap in what they're doing. They see the vision before other people do, right? Whether that's when they were a kid and they were like, I'm going to go pro, or as their evolution in their career and they become as a well-rounded person and investor themselves, or just in their own like playing, like how I'm going to get better every single year, and I'm going to attack something because I'm at the 0.0001% of my field, and they just are different. They're built different. And it's funny now that we're seeing the same crossover of the people who are now owning the teams are also have the same DNA as the people who are playing for them. They look different, but they're that same type of they're the 0.0001s. And that's just going to keep continuing.
Sam, I'm curious, what is the next step or the next phase for you on the No Huddle front? What are you looking to press on and double down on?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to stick and own this lane as much as I can and empower just kind of this great community of, I think, sports creators across the board. We all have our different things and how we can be in this as a unified front. I want to continue to be the spot where you read about a company before that headline hits, right? I want to hear about, the companies that we're all talking about here and have it featured in Huddle a year before that happens, right? Whether you have one customer and one employee, or, you already maybe more mature and you already raised one round, but you're growing to the next one. And so kind of being that leadership spot. And then, like I said, just connecting those dots between sports, business, and entrepreneurship, right? Whether you're someone who wants to get in, work in sports, as sports as an asset class, learning about how companies operate, learning how entrepreneurs build, and learning how that connects to the broader sports ecosystem, that I want to be there for you and a resource for you. Or if you're an investor and you want to get into one of these companies, or you want to learn about what's in the pipeline, what's upcoming, and how I'm thinking thematically too, be in that it's there for you there, and support there. So really just trying to be that connector across those three pillars. And I'd love to get a show out too and have you guys on, as I think people are building too, right? It's telling that story and that journey, and using that mindset and how you're going to take it from step 1 to step 2 to step 10, right? That's what it's all about, in everything that we're doing here. I would love to be a resource to anybody, and the audience you guys are building is phenomenal, and want to support you guys in every which way that I can. And we're all blazing this trail together. We're the future of sports media, and it starts at the Clubhouse on a Friday afternoon.
That's right, Sam. We're definitely gonna have to have you. We're gonna have to have you on again, and we'll have a full house with Jester once he returns from his honeymoon. But we'll get it on the calendar to have you drop in again very, very soon.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll do it in New York next time when you guys are all around. We'll go get something going.
There we go. Absolutely. All right, fellas. Thank you, guys.
Awesome, guys. Enjoy the wedding, Brent. Have a blast.
Thanks. See ya.